Hey guys, it's Miss Jones again, and so today what we're going to do is we are going to complete this past paper. This is the 2016 BGCSE Math Past Paper 1, and yeah, let's get started with the paper. We'll complete the whole paper right now. Okay, so for number 1, of course, we're going to start off with some really easy questions. So it says, at a weather station, a balloon is released every 6 hours, day and night. Calculate the number of balloons that are released in 1 week. Okay, cool. So for this question, we know that 1 week equals 7 days, right? And we know that 1 week is equal to 7 days, and it says that the balloon is released every 6 hours, day and night. And we want to calculate the number of balloons that were released in 1 week. So we have the number of days, and in 1 day we have 24 hours, right? So let's figure out how many balloons is released in 1 day. And so 1 balloon is released every 6 hours, and there are 24 hours in a day. So let's divide 6 into 24, which is 4, which means that 4 balloons is released in 24 hours. And now we want to know how many balloons are released in 1 week. We have 7 days in 1 week, so we multiply the 4 balloons by 7, which is 28. So the number of balloons that were released in 1 week is 28 balloons. All right, cool. That's how we solve that question real quick. Let's move on to number 2. It says the given that x is equal to 7 and y is equal to -4, calculate the value of x squared plus 3y. So x squared plus 3y. They said that x is 7, so we just plug in 7 every time we see x, and then we put back our square, and now we have to plug in -4 every time we see y. And 7 squared is 49, and 3 times -4 is -12. So now we just have to calculate what's 49 minus 12, which is going to be 39, 37. So the value of x squared plus 3y is going to be equal to 37. Alright guys, so number 3 says to calculate the remainder when the sum of 486 and 985 is divided by 83. So in this question, all we're doing is adding 486. And in BGCSE, of course, you know you have your calculator. So you can plug this in your calculator, or you can do addition on your paper, that's fine, but I'm putting it in the calculator. 46 plus 985, and that's 1471. And now they said that we want to divide that by 83, so we're going to divide that into 83, and that's going to give us 17.72. Normally they like 4 decimal places. Normally they like 2 or 4. I feel like we use 4 decimal places when we're dealing with trigs and just sine, cosines, and tangent. So I'll just write the 4 full decimal places over here, but it's basically 17.72. All right, so for the next question, number 4, it says to simplify 19 minus 2 into 3 plus 9 divided by 4. So BODMAS tells us to remove the bracket first. So 9 plus 3 is 12. And I'm going to bring everything else back down. And then we had 2 times 12, which is 24. And then 24 divided by 4, which is 6. And so now we have 19 minus 6, which is just 13. And if you want, you can put this whole thing in your calculator and solve for the answer. But this question is worth 3 marks, as you can see. So if you only put in your answer and you don't show any working at all, then you're probably only going to get 1 point because they won't give you 3 points for one answer. So show your working and show how you get the 13. Okay? Next question. Alright guys, so this next question speaks to symmetry, and it's just asking us to draw in all the lines to symmetry on the diagram. And of course we know symmetry speaks to when you draw a line on a diagram and both sides of the diagram are the same or symmetric. And I'm sorry if my line is not straight, but one line of symmetry will go that way, because if you look, both halves of the shape are symmetric. If this line was actually straight, let me see. If we try to get it through there, those would be straight. And then of course, if you get it through there, those would be symmetric. And then vertical, that's a line of symmetry. And then this horizontal line will also be a line of symmetry. And that question is worth 3 marks. Make sure you draw in all your lines of symmetry to get the full marks. Okay, so for the next question, we have Coffee Break prepares a blend of coffee containing Arabica beans and Brazil beans in a ratio of 4:3. Calculate the weight of Arabica beans in a blend of 455 grams. So, in this ratio question, this is a ratio question, and let's calculate the full amount of the ratio. So the ratio is 4:3. So let's add 4 plus 3, which is 7. And so now we're going to divide 455 by 7. And 455 divided by 7 is 65. And so now what we want to do is calculate the weight of Arabic beans in a blend of 455 grams. And Arabic beans is 4, and then the Brazil beans is 3, but we want Arabic beans. So we're going to do is multiply this 65 by 4, because the Arabica beans, are in the ratio of 4. So this will be 260 grams. And if you wanted to figure out what is the amount for Brazil beans, we would just multiply this 65 by 3, because the Brazil beans are in the ratio of 3, and 65 times 3 is 195. And to calculate, well, to check your answer, you could just add up the 260 plus the 195, and that should total to give you the blend of 455 grams. So 260 plus 195 is 455. So that part of the answer is correct. Okay, so it says Coffee Break has placed an order of 150 kilograms of Brazil beans. Calculate the weight of Arabica beans to be ordered to make their blend. So the Coffee Break now needs 150 kilograms of Brazil beans, and at first we said that they had 195. Alright, so we have to remember that the ratio of Arabica beans to Brazil beans is 4:3. And then they also said that they have an order of 150 kilograms of Brazil beans. So let's go ahead and divide this 150 by what is, and that's Brazil beans. So, and the ratio for the Brazil beans is 3. So we're dividing this by 3. And 150 divided by 3 is just going to be 50. So now we're going to multiply this 50 by 4. That's going to give us 200. So that means the ratio or the weight of Arabica beans that we need is 200 kilograms. And yeah, so that's how we would answer that question. Alright, guys. So number 9 says that Mr. Roll attended a tourist conference session beginning at 8:45 a.m. and ending at 11:05 a.m. We're still on some easy topics. Well, this is paper 1 as well. So, how long was this session? So we're just going to be subtracting time in this question. So it's going to be 11. Let me write a little bit lower. 11:05 minus 8:45, and as we know, 5 minutes cannot subtract from 45 minutes, so we're going to have to borrow an hour from the 11 and make this 10. And because this is minutes over here, we know that 60 minutes is equal to an hour. This will now be 60. So I'm just going to erase this and put 65, because 60 plus 5 is 65. And so now we're going to subtract 5 minus 5 is 0, and then 2, and then this is 2. So the answer will be 2 hours and 20 minutes. So make sure you write it in the correct form, because it asks how long. So you can't just write it as this in this form, because that would be incorrect. So it says that Mr. Roll then had a 55-minute lunch break. At what time did the lunch break end? So it says that Mr. Roll attended a tourist conference beginning 8:45 and ending 11:05. So we have to add 55 minutes to 11:05. So that will be 65 minutes, basically. Which means we have to add the 60 over here to give us 12 minutes. Sorry, 12 o'clock. And then we put back the 5, so 12:05. So his lunch break ended at 12:05 p.m. Okay, guys, so number 10 says, a power boat in a Formula 2 race has an average speed of 165 kilometers per hour. Calculate A, the distance in kilometers that the boat traveled in a race of 1 2/3 of an hour. Okay, so we know the speed, distance, time formula. Speed is just equal to distance over time, and we like to draw that in a triangle. And then we have division on the top, and then multiplication on the bottom. And it asks us for distance, so d is equal to s times t, the speed of 165 kilometers per hour times a time of 1 2/3 of an hour. So I'm just going to put this full thing in my calculator to calculate that. And 165 times 1 2/3 is equal to 275 kilometers. So that's 275 kilometers. Okay, and B asks for the time in minutes to travel a lap of 5.5 kilometers. So the time formula is time is equal to d over s, and our distance is 5.5 kilometers, and that's going to be divided by the speed, which is 165, and 5.5 divided by 165 is equal to 0.0333 recurring. And because so this is the time in hours, and they ask us for the time in minutes, so we're just going to multiply this time by 60 so that we can get the amount of minutes, which is going to give us 2. So then the answer is just going to be 2 minutes, and that's how you solve that question. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, for this next question, Cassandra needs to determine the weight of her 2 dogs, Mimi and Mitzi. However, neither dog will sit on the scale by herself. Cassandra, Mimi, and Mitzi all together weigh 175 pounds. Cassandra and Mimi together weigh 143 pounds. and Cassandra and Mitzi together weigh 139 pounds. And we need to calculate the weight of Mitzi for A. So if we have the weight for Cassandra, Mimi, and Mitzi here, and then we have the weight of Cassandra and Mimi here, if we subtract Cassandra and Mimi from this weight, then we would be able to just leave with the weight of Mitzi. So that's 175 minus 143. That's equal to 32. So then the weight of Mitzi is 32 pounds. And now they're asking for the weight of Mimi. So let's subtract Cassandra, Mimi, and Mitzi, which is 175. We're going to subtract Cassandra and Mitzi from this. And that's going to give us 36. So the weight of Mimi is 36 pounds. And now it's asking for the weight of Cassandra. So if all three of them weigh 175 pounds and Mitzi and Mimi weigh 36 plus 32, which is equal to 68, we're going to subtract 68 from 175, and that's going to give us 107 pounds. So Cassandra weighs 107 pounds. That's how you do that question. Alright guys, so we have a few quick conversions that we have to get to, and normally I like to use this acronym, well, a saying kind of, to make sure that I'm correct. And this is what my math teacher taught me. Knock him down, man. Don't commit murder. Pretty sure that's it, if I could remember correctly. But this works with also with the liters and the grams if you need to. So the first one asks us to convert 5,400 milliliters to liters. So we're going to go on the millimeter, and I'll put my 1 there, and we want to go on to the meter section. So just pretend like this is liters. So I'll fill this in with zeros. And because, I mean, it's 1,000, right? But the 1,000 is backwards. So basically what we're going to do is divide the 5,400 by 1,000. And then that gives us 5.4 liters. And we know that our answer is correct because milliliters should be larger than liters, okay? Because it's in the milli. And then we're going to convert 0.35 grams to milligrams. So we're going to start off from the M section, which we could pretend says G for grams, and it goes down to milligrams. And so because 1,000 is in the correct state, we're going to now multiply. So we're going to multiply 0.35 by 1,000, and that's going to give us 350. So that's 350 milligrams. And now we're going to go from centimeters to meters. So centimeter to meter, and you're just dividing by 100. So this will be 685 divided by 100, and that's going to give us 6.85 meters. Okay, and so for B, it says Java Coffee Shop purchases coffee beans in bags of 13.2 kilograms. The shop then sells this coffee in packages of 220 grams. Calculate the number of packages that can be filled from one bag of coffee beans. So they basically purchase coffee beans in bags of 13.2 kilograms, right? and then they sell the coffee in packages of 220 grams. And we want to know the number of packages that can be filled from one bag of coffee beans. So basically for this question, we're going to have to do a bit of a conversion, and because they sell it in 220 gram packages, we're going to convert the 13.2 kilograms to grams. So using our conversion tool up here, I'm going to put my 1 under kilometers, which we're going to pretend is kilograms, and we're going to stop under meter, which we'll pretend is gram, which means, well, you should know that 1,000 grams are in 1 kilogram. So then we'll multiply the 13.2 kilogram by 1,000, and that will give us 13,200 grams, which means that we're going to now divide 220 grams into 13,200 grams. And that's going to give us 60. So this means that 60 packages will be filled. Alright, so for number 14, the diagram shows a sector of a circle with an angle of 90 degrees and a radius of 10 centimeters. A segment of the circle is shaded. Calculate A, the area of the triangle. And we know that the formula for the area of a triangle is just half base times height, or some people like to say base times height over 2, but it's the same thing. So it's going to be a half of 10 times 10, because they said that the 10 is the radius, so this will be the same for both sides. So base times height over 2, or half of 10 times 10 is basically just going to be 5 times 10, which is 50. So the area of the triangle is just 50 centimeters squared. And so for B, it says to calculate the area of the sector of the circle using pi is 3.14. So the formula for area of a sector of a circle is going to be the angle over 360 times pi r squared. And in this case, they told us that the angle is 90 degrees. So we're just going to put that here. Okay, so now we're just going to put this whole thing in our calculator, and they said to use pi as 3.14. So it's going to be 90 over 360, and then we're going to multiply that by 3.14 times 10 squared, because 10 is the radius, and that gave us 78.5. So the area of the sector of the circle is just 78.5 centimeters square. And now it asks for the area of the shaded segment, which is this segment here. And because we calculated the area of the whole sector, and then we calculated just this portion, which is the triangle, we could be able to subtract the triangle from the whole sector to get the shaded segment. So that will just be 78.5 minus 50. And that should give us that's the area of that segment right there. And 78.5 minus 50 is just 28.5. That's how I calculate the area of the shaded segment. Okay, so number 15 says, in a survey, people were asked which of 3 newspapers they read. The incomplete table below shows the results of this survey. And we must calculate A, the angle representing the sun. Alright, and so we have the angle representing the daily as 120. and the angle representing the press as 140. And if we add both those, we'll have 260 degrees. And if we subtract 260 from 360, we'll get 100 degrees. So the angle representing the sun is 100 degrees. And then for the press, we need to find the number of people who read the press. So I'm going to do a little bit of a ratio kind of setup where I'll have that for the daily we have 60, and that's going to be over 120, and we'll multiply that by the angle for the press is 140, but we don't know the number of people for the press, so I'll just make that equal to x. So now I'm going to cross multiply, and 140 times 60 is 8400. I'm going to make that equal to 120x. So I divide by 120 on both sides. And 8400 divided by 120 is 70. So 70 is equal to x. So then the number of people who read the press is 70. So let's move on to the next question. Okay guys, for the next question, it says, with a protractor and a ruler, use the information from A to complete the pie chart below. And unfortunately, I do not have a protractor and a ruler, so I will not be able to complete this question right now. But you can try it yourself. But when you have the paper, you get your protractor and you get your ruler, and you're basically measuring out the angles. So because this is 120, I'm going to bring this a little bit lower. Try to make it look like 140. So I would say that this would be the press, and this would probably be the sun. But you can get your protractor and your ruler and try that question. Alright guys, so number 16 says, the shoe store for men sold 8 pairs of shoes. The shoe sizes sold were listed below here as 8.5, 10.5, 9, 10.5, 7, 6, 10, and 10.5. We need to calculate the mean of the shoe sizes. And basically, mean is just another word for average. And when we're averaging something, basically all we're doing is adding them all up and dividing them by how many they are. So right now I'm just adding them all up in my calculator. I'm dividing them by how many they are, and and there are 8 of them. So I added them all up and I got 72, and I'm dividing 72 by 8, and that'll give me 9. So the mean of the shoe sizes is 9. And then it asks for the median shoe size, and the median just means middle. So before we actually try to find the median or the middle of these numbers, we have to put them in either ascending or descending order. So let's just write that in real quick. So let's do them in ascending order. So we have 6, then 7, then 8.5, then 9, then 10, and 10.5, like 3 times. Alright, so when we're trying to find the middle, we basically just count or reach the middle on both sides. So let's do that in the middle. Because this is an even number of shoes, we have 8 shoes, we have an even number of shoes, so there's no distinct middle. So we have a median of 9 and 10. And to get this as one median, what we have to do is average the two numbers. So we're going to have to add 10 and 9, which gives us 19, and then we have to divide that by 2, which means that the median shoe size is 9.5. And finally, it says to write down the modal shoe size, and modal is just going to be the shoe size that is most frequent, and that is 10.5, because we see that 3 times, and that's more than all of the other shoe sizes. So that's that question. Alright guys, so now we have a few algebraic expressions that we need to simplify, and there were 2 points each, so let's get to it. So for the first one, we have a half into 3 minus 2x, and a half into 3 is 1.5. So we have to multiply the half by everything in the bracket. So a half into 3 is 1.5, and then a half into 2x is just going to give us negative x, or negative 1x, but we know that negative 1x is just, we know that x is just equal to 1x, or 1x is equal to x, so we don't have to specifically write the 1 in front of it if we don't need to or if we don't want to, because x and 1x is the same thing. So this expression simplifies to 1.5 minus x. And for b, we have 19s minus 6t minus s plus 5t. If you want, you can group like terms, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's bring down our 19s, and then we'll bring down our negative s, and then we'll bring down our negative 6t plus 5t. And 19s minus s, or 19s minus 1s, is 18s. And negative 6t plus 5t, or negative 6 plus 5, is going to give us negative 1, or negative t. So that just gave us 18s minus t. And so now we have 5w plus w cubed times 3. So let's multiply our bases, or the constants. And we have 5 and 3, and 5 times 3 is 15. Let's write down our w, and now we have to add our powers. That's gonna, so w cubed plus w is just going to give us w to the 4th. So that's 15w to the 4th. And now we'll have 24p to the 7th divided by 3p squared. And 24 divided by 3 is just 8. Write down the p, and because we're dividing, we have to subtract the powers. And 7 minus 2 is 5. So this will give us 8p to the 5th. Okay guys, so the next few questions deal with percentage. So for 18a, it says that restaurants add a gratuity of 15% to the diner's bill. Calculate the gratuity for a bill of $67.50, given your answer to the nearest cent. Okay, so for this question, what I'm going to do is put in my calculator 15%, or because we know that percentage is, or a percentage is a part of a whole, or a part of 100%, we're going to divide 15 into 100, which will give us 0.15, and then we're going to multiply that by 67.50, which gives us 10.125. And it says to give our answer to the nearest cent, and we don't give money in this form, so the answer will then be $10.13, because we round up the 2 because of the 5. Cool. So the next question says that the regular price of a purse is $159, and the sale price is $106, and we should calculate the percentage saving. So basically, we wanted to know what's the discount. And to do that, first let's subtract the regular price from the sale price. So let's take 106 away from 159. And that gives us 53. And now we're going to divide this 53 into the regular price of the item. And then we're going to multiply that answer. So we multiply that answer by 100 to get the percentage. And so that will give me 33.333 recurring. So I'm just going to leave it as 33%. Alright, so for C it says that a savings account earns interest of 2.5% per year. And we should calculate the interest earned on $840 in 6 months. Okay, so for this question, it says that the interest is 2.5% per year, and we know that a year has 12 months. And we know that 6 months is just a half of a year. So we're going to divide this percentage, this 2.5%, by 2. So that it'll give us 1.25% per 6 months. And then we're going to multiply that by the $840. And that gives us 1050. So this is how much that should be on the account in 6 months. But it asks for the interest earned. So let's subtract this from the $840, or the original price, and that'll give us $210. And so that should be the interest calculated after 6 months. Alright guys, so these next few questions, or these last few questions, deal with money and earnings. So let's go. Linda is paid $12.40 per hour for the first 36 hours of a regular work week. Overtime is paid a time and a half. This week she worked 42 hours. A. Calculate her earnings for 1. The regular 36 hours worked. So if we just want to calculate the earnings for the regular 36 hours worked, and we know that she got paid $12.40 per hour, we're just going to multiply the $12.40 by the 36. And that will give us $446.40 for the 36 hours. And now we want to know how much she made for 1 hour of overtime. And it says that overtime is paid a time and a half. So on a regular hour she makes $12.40. And for 1 hour of overtime, we're going to have to multiply that by 1.5. So it will be 12.4 times 1.5, and that will give us $18.60. So she makes $18.60 for 1 hour of overtime. And so now what we want to do is calculate her earnings for her total, earnings for this week. So first of all, she worked 42 hours, and the first 36 of those hours, we already know that she got paid the $446.40. Now, the rest of the time that she worked was 42, take away 36, which is 6 hours. So she worked 6 hours of overtime, and she's being paid $18.06 for those 6 hours. Sorry, $18.60 for those 6 hours. And then that should give us $111.60. And so we're going to do is add that to the $446.40. So $111.60 plus $446.40 is equal to $558. So she made $558 this week, and that's inclusive of her regular time and her overtime. Alright, so this part of the question says that last week Linda's total earnings were $465. The employee national insurance contribution was 3.4% of the total earnings. So we should calculate her national insurance contribution for last week. So her national insurance contribution was 3.4% of $465. So you can just multiply 465 by 3.4 over 100. And that is $15.81. So she paid $15.81 to the National Insurance Board. And then we want to know what her net earnings is. And the net is just after what you get paid after everything comes out of your earnings. And the only thing they gave us was the $15.81 that came out of it. So it will be $465 minus the $15.81. And that gives us $449.19. Oops. Alright, so her net earnings were $449.19. Okay guys, and so that was basically the whole paper 1 of the 2016 BGCSE math paper. And subscribe for more, or comment down below and like the video. Just basically comment down below what you would like to see next or what you would like to see more of, and if you have any questions as well. Bye.